This is the fourth in a series of videos that follow in the footsteps of George Taylor. It tells the story of how Taylor's remains were disinterred and ended up in Easton Cemetery years after his monument was dedicated there. Our story starts with the history of St. John's Evangelical Lutheran Church.
In 1762, the Moravian community built a brother house out on 3rd Street, just south of Ferry. But they never used it. And the Lutherans bought that building in 1763, worshiped there, and started a cemetery back behind that building out to 4th Street. In 1776, the Lutherans stopped using that building. It became a hotel, but the cemetery is still here, and they went and moved in with the Reforms in the building on 3rd. George lives across the street. He dies in 1781. We can't find any records that he was a member of St. John's, but he was buried where he could still see his house. The Lutherans worshiped in the facility on North 3rd with the Reforms until they decided in 1831 that they were going to build their own building. And they started completing it in 1832. The interesting thing is the building covered half of the cemetery. And bodies were moved, but many of those tombstones are still found in what's known as the grave cellar, in the basement of this building. George's body was not buried in that portion. He was buried in the portion of the cemetery that remained from the building to 4th Street until 1870, when it was decided to move those bodies to the Easton Cemetery, and the property was sold to the Easton School District for the construction of an elementary school named after George Taylor.
Taylor was reinterred in front of the monument erected in his honor in 1855. The cemetery board had set aside the circular area for that purpose, no doubt because at the time there was a good view of Easton. The chapel seen behind the monument was built in 1875 with stones from the cemetery grounds. The Taylor Monument was the first publicly funded monument honoring a signer of the Declaration of Independence. The sculpture was created by the Henry S. Tarr Company in Philadelphia at a cost of $2,500. The monument is made of marble and is over 20 feet tall. An eagle rests on the top, perched on an American flag with stars on the upper part, and the folds fall down the shaft. There's a coat of arms similar to the one used by the state of Pennsylvania. On each corner of the base is a torch pointing down, symbolizing death. Although Taylor could not cast a vote to adopt the Declaration on July 4th, he signed it with other delegates in August. He replaced the previous delegate who had changed his mind. The cemetery opened in 1849 and is the final resting place of many familiar names in history, including James Madison Porter, who was the leading force in the founding of Lafayette College. As president, William Cattell helped keep Lafayette College financially solvent during the Civil War. Belle Mingle Archer was reputed to be the most photographed stage actress of the 1890s. The Brooke Monument is the largest and at the time the most expensive monument in the cemetery. Aaron O. Hoff was a member of the first class of Lafayette and the first black student. Charles A. Wyckoff fought in the Civil War and later was killed in the Spanish-American War in the American assault on San Juan Hill.